And the way that they always are like coming together, coming apart, coming together, coming apart, it reminds me of the choices that we continue to make, the ways that we continue to impact each other and affect each other's lives. Hi, Sarah here. Welcome back. We are back with another installment of the Top Tarot Chums times Tarot Memoirs video series. In this video, we've got the Lovers, so I'll share some personal examples and stories related to the Lovers energy in my life, and I'll share 5 favorite Lovers cards from all of my tarot decks. Let's get to it. Continuing the journey from the Hierophant, Major Arcana number 5, which is understanding the system beyond the self, we have the Lovers, which in my opinion is summarized by allowing ourself to be changed by other. I feel that a lot of people and sources will say that the Lovers can mean any type of love or choice or commitment, not just romantic love, but I think it can be hard to conceptualize the Lovers as representing anything else, any other kind of love or choice besides romantic love, when a lot of Lovers cards will depict like 2 people kissing or hugging or interacting in a way. So I found a few quotes and excerpts that help me understand and conceptualize the Lover's energy beyond like just interpersonal or romantic love. The first excerpt I'll share is from my book called Tarot for One. I've enjoyed this book because it lists some examples and explanations of the tarot in very everyday, accessible language. So here is the excerpt. Yet the Lovers represents more than interpersonal chemistry. In the Fool's journey, it symbolizes a kind of love that changes the heart of the Fool. They cannot go back to the character they were before they encountered the Lovers. It marks connections so deeply profound that they change who we are, where we go, and how we see the world. And the book shares one example of the Lovers in a non-romantic context. It shared about how a client was rescuing a stray cat. This querent, they ended up leaving their finance career to start an animal shelter. So this random encounter of a stray cat, it opened up their heart in a way and made a change in their heart in a way that it made them just want to leave their career that they had built up over years to go to a different career, go to a different endeavor. So this idea of a love or an experience that changes the heart of the Fool, that really resonates with me about the Lovers, especially in a non-romantic context. The next excerpt is from a book called Tarot and the Archetypal Journey. I've read very little of this book so far, and it is definitely quite dense. The text on the PDF that I have is quite small, but it's got some really good gems. The excerpts I'll share are pretty long, but I think they're pretty good and pretty helpful to my understanding of the Lovers in the tarot. So here are the excerpts. The tarot lover is doubtless scheduled for some big insights and some big conflicts. As Jung has repeatedly said, conflict is the essence of life and the necessary prerequisite for all spiritual growth. Life cannot be lived in the abstract. It's only through facing each individual conflict and suffering it through to its resolution or transcendence that we reach into our deepest selves. It's often a seemingly insoluble conflict that brings a person into analysis and starts him on the road to individuation. It is only through becoming conscious of our conflicts, facing them and suffering them, that genuine peace can be found. And this peace, far from being the ultimate goal, is a temporary achievement, a plateau as it were, on the long journey. For each new awareness experienced along the way first presents itself as a new conflict. Citing the archetypes Fool, Cupid, and Trickster as aspects of the alchemical Mercurius, Alma Paulson writes, Mercurius pricks our ego's self-centered isolation and brings us into confrontation with the wider world in which our fellow men exist, a world in which relatedness is required of us. And the third excerpt I'll share is not from a book, but it's from this random Tumblr post I saw on my social media feed. I think this post is beautifully and quite romantically written, and it definitely represents the energy of the Lovers quite well in my opinion too. So here is the post. I want to be inconvenienced by you. I want to wait for you. I want to hold your things while you do something else. I want to make adjustments to my plans to make space for you. Someone at your side who takes up no space and has no needs of their own is not a person, but a shadow. I don't want a shadow. I want you. I want my life to be altered by your presence in it. Please inconvenience me. This last sentence again. I want my life to be altered by your presence in it. Please inconvenience me. Dude, mind blown. Especially as someone who has been kind of avoidant and kind of anxious about new experiences or new commitments in the past, this reminder of I want my life to be altered by your presence in it is such a beautiful reminder that so much growth in our lives comes from us being open to new experiences. Even if we're scared about these new experiences, we're still making the choice or commitment to go through with these new experiences anyway. For example, when I was doing my wedding planning last year, that was a really scary and arduous experience. It was 9 full months of planning and meeting and calling people and working with our teams like every single week. Like, that was a big experience, but it changed me for the better. It made me learn more about event planning and event coordination. It's just such a moving reminder that when we open ourselves to people and experiences that might challenge us, they can ultimately help make us better. Okay, so before going into the memoirs, I want to share about the Rider-Waite-Smith Lovers and what I love about this card. With previous Rider-Waite-Smith cards, I felt like okay about them, but the Lovers in the Rider-Waite-Smith is definitely like an honorable mention for like my top tarot trumps. It definitely really speaks to me and my evolving understanding of relationships. So here is the Rider-Waite-Smith Lovers here. We see 2 different people who are naked, which symbolizes vulnerability, and we see some motifs that symbolize change in the background, like apple symbolizing knowledge. We have the snake, which symbolizes transformation and also like giving of knowledge. We have the tree on fire, so the fire also signifies like burning away old things. It signifies growth and transformation. We have the sun in the background, which symbolizes like clarity. What I love most about this card is that the 2 figures are naked, again symbolizing vulnerability and openness. And even though like one of the figures is looking up at the angel, in my mind, the figures are looking more at each other. That to me represents the sort of openness and transparency that a feeling, a choice, a love, such as in the Lovers, would represent to me. Going back to the example from Tarot for One, the person who was rescuing a stray cat and they decided to open an animal shelter and leave their old career behind. In that moment, when you're leaving your career behind to chase this new endeavor, you know, you're kind of bearing your soul out to the open. Like you're stepping away from what felt safe before. You're kind of shedding your clothes, what you knew before, your old personality or your old lifestyle really. And you're being open to this new experience, just as these people in this card are like naked and open to each other being naked. So that symbolism explained, I'll share a few personal examples, a few memoirs of lovers' energy in my life. So essentially, I'm thinking about conflicts or experiences that changed and challenged me. I'll be honest, this was actually kind of hard for me because I did not have many memories of like pre-college experiences or I don't think a lot of my pre-college experiences related to lovers' energy because I had so many defenses and I was so avoidant and anxious about other people. Like I did not know how to like be more open and transparent. I wanted to be close with people, but I had so many like mental defenses and barriers up that made it hard for me to connect with other people or be open to new, actually life-changing experiences. But I still was able to come up with 3 lovers' energy memoirs. So the first one I'll share, I'll basically summarize it as this one argument with a friend. So in college, my major was television or like video production. In my 3rd or 4th year, I needed to produce like a 5-minute short film. So one of my friends was really gracious and she volunteered to act for my short film. This friend was not an actor. She was not an aspiring actor. There was like not much in it for her besides literally just being my friend and volunteering to be on camera for me and reading the script and learning the lines and all that stuff. She also occasionally gave me rides to whenever we had shoots off campus. And our shoot was going like pretty well. But one day she had kind of a bone to pick with me. So we went up to my dorm room and she basically like laid it all out on the table. She essentially shared with me that she was feeling underappreciated and that I wasn't appreciating or acknowledging like how much work that this volunteering was for her. She had mentioned how like I had once said like, oh, I'm so grateful that you're helping me. I don't know how to repay you. And she had suggested I could take her to her favorite like pie place as like compensation or as thanks. And I had not registered that as like an actual way for me to thank her. So this issue that she was bringing to me, that I was not being appreciative of her time, looking back on it now, that felt like a lover's moment for me, a lover's energy moment, because honestly, up until that point in my life, no one had ever really told me that I need to actually do tangible things to thank people. I need to thank people and show appreciation in tangible ways beyond just saying, oh, thank you, I'm grateful for you, and then not doing anything else, not doing anything to compensate for it or to reciprocate. Like, that was the first ever friend, I think, who had actually laid it out on the table and basically told me that you're not being a very nice person when you're not actually reciprocating like the effort, the energy. Like, for all the work that my friend had done into like showing up for set and learning lines and receiving direction from me as a director, like, it was the least I could do to like pay for a meal or two, like, as thanks. So yeah, like, that was when I learned that I have to engage with people more deeply and more personally, not only engage with them only when it's convenient for me. It does feel kind of weird saying this in like a public video, like, oh, my friend told me or taught me how to be a nicer person. But like, I'll own it. Like, the way that I grew up, I just had not been taught or had not experienced the importance of reciprocity. So I'm glad that my friend was direct enough and bold enough to tell me these things, because if she had not told me, I don't know who else would. So I appreciate that conversation and the closeness that it brought us and the change that it inspired in me. The next lovers energy example I'll share is when I started making YouTube videos. Contrary to the rescuing a stray cat experience or encounter, I actually didn't have a moment when I felt like, oh my God, I do need to make YouTube videos immediately. It was kind of a slow burn. I know Lisa Papez has mentioned that she started off making comments on other people's YouTube videos, and then she realized that she had more to say, so that's when she started making videos of her own. I feel like that was kind of how I started making videos as well. I felt like I wanted to share my own thoughts and express things out loud. And like, this whole journey of making YouTube videos is like a whole lover's experience. I don't feel like making YouTube videos is something that comes easily or naturally to me. Every video takes work, planning out video scripts, discerning which ideas I want to keep versus scratch, engaging with others in this Tarot 2 community. All of that is important to me and it's work. And I also just have to see this video making process for what it is, you know? I think sometimes we can romanticize making YouTube videos when in reality, for the people like making these videos, like, I'm literally just sitting here in my living room with my 3 cameras, lights all set up for me. It's not that glamorous. I'm just talking to my phone with my iPad here. It feels like I'm just recording a presentation from my home. It just isn't that glamorous. Yeah, this YouTube video, TarotTube journey definitely is just lover's energy for me. It requires a lot of vulnerability and openness and just reevaluation. I'm definitely a different person now. My heart and soul and essence has been changed because I keep working at this tarot tube thing. I'm definitely a different person now than I was like last year or the year before I got really into making videos. So great for me. The last lovers related tarot memoir I'll share, this one is definitely a bit vulnerable. It's me rekindling or improving my relationship with my dad post-divorce. So I have mentioned that my parents started separating like a couple years ago. And after that separation, I felt like I was able to breathe again. I started being able to interact with my parents more as individual people rather than a unit. The way that I grew up, we thought that family was the most important. It's not fair to have like individual relationships with each parent. Whenever you have like dinner or family gatherings, you have to interact with both your parents. But after the separation, I started seeing my parents as 2 individual people. And I've been able to have more conversations and meetups and phone calls with my dad post-divorce than I was individually before when they were still together. And in these conversations and phone calls, I've been able to let go of my previous perception of my dad as this like all-knowing, all-perfect being that I used to idolize. And I've been able to see my dad just as like a person. I don't fault him anymore for things that he did differently or things that he did wrong or ways that he hurt me like in the past, because I now just have the understanding that he was his own person just figuring things out. You know, he wasn't given a manual of like how to parent. And also like his own family is like states away. They're on the East Coast. So it's not like my dad had like that much family to lean on when we were growing up here. And also because I see my dad more just as a person rather than this, again, omnipotent being, I have been more frank with him and I've been able to speak my mind more with him and have more open and honest conversations. I've been able to like talk back to him and like yell at him a little bit more than like I used to. Like in the past, I would have been worried about being disrespectful towards my elders. But now, like adult me, post-divorce me is like, look, man, he's just a person. I'm a person. We're figuring out this father-child relationship together. I'm not going to just be quiet if I see him treating my siblings unfairly or treating me unfairly. So yeah, I feel like that's quite lover's energy. Just seeing my dad more as a person and all of his vulnerability, and me being more vulnerable and open and frank with him in the process. All right, those were examples of lovers energy in my life. Now moving on to the last part of this video, which is my top favorite lovers cards across all of my decks. I already mentioned what I like about the Rider-Waite-Smith Lovers. For other lovers cards, I actually don't really like cards where it looks like there's a human couple. Sometimes the figures are like holding hands, sometimes they're kissing. It just feels very on the nose. And again, especially if I'm reading for other people, it just makes it harder for me to try to explain that the lovers doesn't just mean like, oh, you're gonna like be with your crush like long term, or how do I relate this card to a non-romantic, non-interpersonal context. Also, like, just because two people are kissing or holding hands doesn't mean they're in love or a serious love either. I understand its symbolism, but again, it just feels very on the nose. Also, I'm not very like romantic of a person, so I just don't really connect with depictions of lovers, of human people being like kissy and lovey-dovey in cards. So that being said, what lovers cards do I actually like? So the first card I'll mention is from the Flow Tarot. The lovers, the keyword here says the enduring union. In this card, we see the water, the waves, the ocean, making waves and lapping against the shore, the sand. So I'm seeing the water and the sand as like the two components of the lovers. And the way that they always are like coming together, coming apart, coming together, coming apart, it reminds me of the choices that we continue to make, the ways that we continue to impact each other and affect each other's lives. So like in the example of my relationship with my dad, for example, that's not just like a one and done like conversation and then it's over. It is an ongoing journey of having more conversations and having more experiences together where we see more of each other and we get to change each other's lives and human souls for the better. Another lover's card I enjoy is the Fountain Tarot. This one, we see two figures who seem to be like sitting down and their hands are touching. We've got like a bubble around them. So here the symbolism feels very clear. It feels like just focusing on what's right in front of you, blocking out like perhaps any extra noise, any extra extraneous things that might be affecting your connection or your focus on what's right in front of you. Also, the two figures are like naked. So again, that symbolizes vulnerability for me, which I love. I also just love the simplicity in this card. Like there's not much of a background or much else going on in this scene. The Fountain Tarot is really good at depicting cards with clarity and with non-muddled backgrounds and scenes, and this card is no exception. Another card I'll share is from the Spacious Tarot. So this one we see two strands like weaving in and out of each other. It kind of looks like DNA to me, just the weaving in and out, kind of like the helix of the DNA. Compared to the rest of the cards in this deck, this Lover's card is one of the most simple cards. And I think that it's a very effective depiction. Similar to the Fountain Tarot, this card is also very simple and very straightforward. It's very to the point. The only thing we see is really the glow of where these two strands are like mingled together. So I'm seeing the symbolism as the two figures or two whatever it is, like focusing on just the bond, just the dance together. And similar to the Flow Tarot, the two strands are not like all stuck together. They're like weaving. They come together, come apart, come together, come apart again. So yeah, lovers relationships or lovers examples or energies doesn't just mean you enmesh and become one person. It's a choice to come together and have some sort of intersection and influence each other in this way. The next card I'll share is from the Somnia Tarot. The Somnia Tarot is one of my favorite decks, and this photo is so epic looking, it could even be like a book cover. It's a very cool recreation of the Rider-Waite-Smith Lovers. We have the two trees. One kind of looks like an apple tree. The other one is like a tree on fire here. And instead of an angel, we have the ladder. I love the ladder because to me, it signifies like ascension, maybe ascending to something higher, ascending to more knowledge, ascending to something greater. A fascinating detail of this card is that if you zoom in, the two figures here are not holding hands, but their hands are actually like tied together. There can definitely be some symbolism there of like perhaps not bound together by choice. It could be involuntarily being bound together, yet you're still choosing to make the most of it. I also see that, the left figure is holding an apple, the right figure is holding scissors. The scissors could signify like a choice to sever the relationship or sever the cord, the connection, but perhaps not doing so. So this card has a lot of interesting symbolism. And the last Lovers card I'll share is from the Spectral World Tarot. This definitely looks very much like the Rider-Waite-Smith Lovers. The main thing I'll highlight in this card is that in the middle where the tree branches are connecting and swirling around, it's like squeezing out paint or something. It basically makes me think of making lemonade together. I imagine the tree branches offering each other their own lemons, and they're just squeezing them together, making joint lemonade. The colors of the Spectral World Tarot are very bright and very fun to look at, and the middle part is just what I love most about this card. So yeah, those are some favorite Lovers cards. It was hard to find cards that did not feature human or animal couples, again, holding hands or kissing. Let me know what your favorite Lovers cards are. If you have any dealio with human figures on the cards, or with people holding hands or kissing. Do you have issues with it? Do you not? Let me know what you think. Those were Lovers cards and Lovers Tarot Memoirs. Yeah, this series continues, right? All right, well, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.